Hey guys, my name is Katie Bohack. This is my discussion video for Chapter 6. I'm going to try to talk loud. I don't have a voice. I'm sick. Sorry guys. So, for what I learned, one thing that I learned and also found interesting is heat budget. Earth has to give the same heat back to space as it took, or it will change the planet drastically. I thought this was very unique, but it makes sense. This is something I would have never thought about before reading it. Another thing I learned is that icebergs float with about 12% of their mass above the surface. Now I understand why the Titanic sank, hitting icebergs. This means 88% of their mass is below the surface. This would make a small iceberg very dangerous to passing boats because they wouldn't just hit the small top, but also the large and heavy bottom that is hidden underneath. So that can be pretty dangerous if you don't know what to look for. Again, understand why the Titanic sank. So what I found interesting, interesting that the greatest intensity of radiation, solar radiation, is at the equator, and that it gets less intense as it moves away from the equator. This does make sense because the equator is warmer than other areas. As you move away from it, the temperature drops. So this does make sense. I just never really thought about it, and I don't know if those two are connected, but it makes sense why the equator has more solar radiation. Another fact that I found interesting is that land and sea respond differently to solar radiation because of the difference in the specific heat of land and water. I found that interesting because I never knew that it mattered between land and water. There's a lot of differences between land and water, and it's very interesting to learn about. So what I want to know more about, I would like to know what we can do to help the climate change that breaks apart glaciers. Is it the pollution or chemicals we release, or the fossil fuels we burn? I know that all three of those play a major role in the climate change and global warming, but what is it specifically that affect glaciers, and what can we do to make the effect less damaging? I find this interesting and would like to know more information about it. I would also like to know more about the greenhouse effect. I would like to learn more about the effects to the environment, I would like to learn more about the effects to the environment and what we can do to stop this effect from hurting our environment. I know there has been an increase in CO2 in the atmosphere because of the pollution from industrial purposes. And of course, this also ties into global warming and climate change and what we can do to specifically change the greenhouse effect. I know there's a lot we can do to help global warming and climate change, but I would like to know more. Well, I would like to know more about global warming and climate change altogether, but I would also like to know more about specifically what is affecting the environment the ocean environment because of climate change and global warming, and what we can do to help prevent the oceanus damage. It would be interesting to see what we could do to make a difference, because of course we are what makes a difference. So for my 3 questions, my first question: what effects does the hole in the ozone above the Antarctica have on Earth? I did some research on that, and I did learn why it occurs, but I did not see what it has an effect when it does occur. I know it is very damaging to the ozone, but I would just like to know if it affects the land at Antarctica, or the water surrounding it, anything that has to do with that, like what it does, like damage wise, or if it changes temperature, stuff like that. So for my second question, does the amount of wind over the ocean vary between the different oceans? I know that oceans are very windy, and it is a great place for windmills. I know a lot of countries are putting windmills in the ocean for solar power, or not solar power, for wind power. So I was just wondering if the different oceans matter about how much wind they get, if it's the same for all the oceans, because I know that it's way more than for land. For my third question, can we do anything to prevent natural disasters such as hurricanes or tsunamis? Yeah, I get it, natural disasters. It's in the title. But I was just wondering if there's anything we can do environmental-wise to change those from occurring, because they are very damaging. If we can't prevent them, can we do anything to lessen the damage they cause? I know that countries are putting up gates to prevent water from flowing in, and they can control how much water flows in and out. And it does help when they have a natural disaster. But for bigger countries that have large masses of land surrounding water, like the US and Canada and Mexico, countries like that, what can we do to help the damage be less for those areas affected by natural disasters? That's all I have. Thank you.